There's some roller coasters out there that really blow your mind and makes you question how the flip is this allowed to exist. This ride is one of them. Hello everybody and welcome to my review of Expedition G-Force. Expedition G-Force can be found at Holiday Park within Germany, and is often considered by many European enthusiasts to be the best roller coaster on the entire continent, and in many cases the entire world. This thing combines the airtime of Untamed with the positive G-forces of Nemesis. It's flippin' insane. You know the drill, subscribe if you enjoy the video, and let's get into that ride layout. You start by ascending the very quick lift hill that, just like Sick at Flamingo Land, features a cable that brings you to the tallest point on the coaster. Because you have a bit more momentum going over the top of the lift hill, you get pushed into that first drop, and what a drop this is. I honestly think that this is the best drop I've experienced on a roller coaster. There's a ton of whip, especially in that back row, and the airtime is amazing. This roller coaster features these tiny Intamin lap bars, and you feel really exposed. Towards the front of the train, you don't get nearly as strong airtime, but instead you get more of a push descending down this really steep drop. Once you get to the bottom, you're bombarded with positive G-forces, and this will be a reoccurring theme throughout the entirety of your experience. You then fly up into the first of many airtime hills, and the airtime is flippin' incredible. It's like the coaster is trying to send you to the moon. After the largest hill on the ride, you then go into a nice overbank. Nothing quite as insane as that airtime hill, but it supplies a decent amount of force, and you take the element pretty quickly, so the pacing remains consistent. Descending down into the trees, you then pop up into another, much smaller airtime hill. And once again, this thing tries to send you to the moon. I love the sense of speed you get as you fly over and then between the trees. No joke, I actually got hit by an acorn on one of my rides. It really hurt, not gonna lie. After this hill, you then fly into two large turns, separated by a valley that has a nice little twist to it. Nothing overly dramatic, but a nice touch. It's definitely the weakest part of the ride in my opinion, but there's a nice moment of positive G-forces at the bottom. The exit to the second of the two turns provides a small moment of weak airtime and whip as you descend down through the trees, into a quick little turn to the right, before an abrupt twist to the left. It's a great transition that is very similar to the twist over the water on Goliath at Wallaby Holland, but even better because you take this element at a much faster pace. Now that I think about it, Expedition G-Force is simply a better version of Goliath, even though this ride was built earlier. Following on from that twist, you then enter another turn which is basically a smaller version of the one directly above it. Not hugely forceful, but it doesn't matter too much because you then enter 4 airtime hills back to back. For me, there's no better way to finish a coaster. Just like earlier parts of the ride, the valleys in between the hills are very forceful, and before you know it, the train slams into that brake run with a ton of speed to spare, completing your ride on Expedition G-Force. As you can probably tell, the pacing on G-Force is flawless. Every element is taken at a very good speed, and there's no major dead spots on the coaster. Right from the moment you leave the station, you're on this exciting journey through the woods. Arguably, the pacing does die down a little bit around the middle of the ride, but it's not a dull moment because you still have that sense of speed. I mentioned earlier how Expedition G-Force is just as intense as Nemesis at Alton Towers. Sure, maybe the G-forces aren't as prolonged as they are on Nemesis, but blimey, this thing is insanely forceful. You go from experiencing some of the best negative G-forces out there, to suddenly being bombarded with positive G-forces. Untamed was a great ride, but it didn't have those moments of intensity like this ride has. Expedition G-Force is really strong in the forces department. Smoothness can literally make or break your roller coaster experience. For example, I love the Grand National at Blackpool for its crazy airtime, but it's so dang rough that it doesn't even crack my top 30. Expedition GeForce isn't glossy smooth, but it's definitely not rough. I like to say it has a little bit of a bite to it. There's no part of this coaster that feels uncomfortable. I mean, as you sit towards more of the back of the train, you will experience more of a rattle. Don't get me wrong, it's not that bad, but maybe something to keep in mind. The setting of this coaster is really cool, but they could have played more into this adventure theme. The official soundtrack only gets played in the plaza area, which is better than nothing, but the station could be so much better. I can't believe I haven't mentioned this already, but the ride is sponsored by Big FM, a German radio company, and they play pretty generic pop songs 24/7 in that station. And the thing is, you can't escape it because some very intelligent person put speakers on the lift hill, which means you have to listen to this music all the way up to the top. So, how well does Expedition GeForce do in the old Stubwood rankings? Well, it's better than a lot of coasters I've ridden so far. It currently sits as my second favourite roller coaster, just behind Untamed. For me, Untamed has the better airtime, but in terms of comfortability and positive G-forces, Expedition GeForce wipes the floor with Untamed. In conclusion, Expedition GeForce is a great ride that definitely deserves the praise it gets. Is it as unique as some newer coasters out there? No, not at all. But if you like traditional ejector airtime, then this is the ride for you. Thanks for watching and have a great day.